85% of white men are the men that are raping and grooming. It's not migrants, it's not black people, it's not minorities, it is white men, the men that are in this country. The same way how they decide to put the focus on trans people, put the focus on black people, put the focus on the minorities to keep our attention away from what's actually going on. It is because of race. It's always been because of race. People think that when we talk about, being pro-black and whatnot, it means being anti-white. The only reason why they think that is because being pro-white has always meant being anti-black. It's not the same thing. We just want peace. You lot don't know what peace is.
I think it's black supremacy.
Black supremacy doesn't even make any sense. That can't make sense, because in order to have supremacy and racism and everything, it requires a power dynamic. So black supremacy is like saying black fatigue. Black fatigue only exists because white people cannot understand the privilege that they have naturally in the society that they have. That's like a man talking about what do you call it, male privilege doesn't exist. That doesn't make any sense. The society is built around you guys. Yes, men still have depression. Yes, men still suffer. Yes, men still unalive themselves due to the system that who built. It's like black supremacy that doesn't exist. I wish it did.
White people, the white people that don't believe in white privilege. Let me tell you something. White privilege is a real fucking thing. And I know you can't comprehend it or understand it and all that bullshit. My hair crazy. Anyway, let me explain it to you this way, white people, and maybe you'll understand it coming from a white person. Maybe you will understand the white privilege that I'm telling you. I've never in my life been thankful that my boys are white. Ever. Never been thankful that they were white. But now, with the shit that's going on in this goddamn world, I'm thankful that my children are white. That's one less worry I have to worry about my children. There's your white privilege. I don't have to worry about my child when he goes out that fucking door that he's going to be harassed by ICE or harassed by the police. I don't have to worry about that. That right there is white privilege. And I've never been thankful that my children, especially my boys, are white. Understand that? And I hate to say it like that, but that's what white privilege is. And if that's the way I gotta say it and the way to get it through your fucking head, that y'all don't realize how thankful you should be that you're goddamn white. I'm embarrassed to be white because of what we fucking do. That's for damn sure. But I'm also thankful because it's one less worry that I have to worry about for my children. Does that not register with you that these people that are brown, that are black, that are from different countries, they have that extra worry because of that? That's what white privilege is being white, not having to worry about that stuff that comes with being from another country or brown or black. That's what white privilege is. Having not to worry, that one less worry off of you, because it's a big worry, especially right now. Like I said, I've never been thankful that my children are white until now. I've never been thankful to be white until now, because it's one less worry.
This could cost me followers, and if it does, I'm okay, because I know I've lost the right ones. In 2024, if you don't understand that white privilege doesn't equal financial privilege, there's a good chance it's because you choose to be willfully ignorant. White privilege doesn't mean that you grew up rich or that you didn't have a hard life. It's the concept that by the mere coincidence of you being born white or white presenting, that you have an inherent privilege. You're afforded certain benefits of the doubt that not everyone gets. It's the difference from a white person walking into a store and a customer salesperson walking up and saying, "Hi, can we help you find something today?" To a black person walking in that same store with that same customer service person following them around because they looked kind of suspicious. It's the black family that can't leave their family photos hanging on the wall when they're selling their house because the home appraiser might undervalue their house by as much as $500,000. And for fuck's sakes, you've never had to apologize for being white. Had your parents fucked on a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday, you wouldn't even be you. Rather, just acknowledge that the system that was designed by and for people that look like you has never been a level playing field. I hope this made it clear. Have a great fucking weekend.
Hey, Papa Stags, or however you pronounce that. So, actually everything that you're describing is proof that white privilege exists, because it's because of these systems of white supremacy that infiltrated our core beliefs that we are unworthy and push that we're better than onto everybody else. And so all of this, you know, the black culture lending itself to being scrutinized, any person of color, yeah, that's a symptom of their oppression. So yeah, we need to start taking accountability for white privilege existing and stop blaming the people for what we created.
Racism and white supremacy is so ingrained into America and its roots and it's in its blood that to some extent it feels like whatever people are talking about, it's just a normal thing. You tell a white person that they do benefit from white privilege and they do not understand what you're saying. They do not understand your statement. So you have to expound for it to make sense. You tell a white person that you're actually being racist or whatever you just said is kind of racist. And they start fighting you over it because racism has been made to become such like it's just a normal thing. And one of the reasons why America is not moving forward, especially in terms of racism and white supremacy and white privilege, it's because white people continue to refuse that white privilege and some of these things that affect black people, that they do exist. They completely refuse. You tell a white person that they benefit from white privilege, they start talking about their pockets. That's saying, if I am privileged, then why don't I have money? Why have my parents, you know, suffered through life? Why do I need to go to work and get that is not what that is not what white privilege is. That is financial privilege. That is not white privilege. White privilege is not about the things that you have gone through. It's about the things that you haven't gone through, the things that you do not know, the things that you have never had to wake up and think about before you go on with your day, before you get out of your door. Those are the things that black people continue to tell you to think about. It's not about what is in your pocket or how you were raised or how you are right now or your financial welfare. It's not about that. It's about even when you're struggling with not having food on your table, without having money in your pocket, without having electricity or a roof over your head, being a black person or a brown person is not another thing that you have to be concerned about, because the system of America is literally targeting you, is literally designed to make your life miserable. And until white people actually acknowledge that it actually exists, there will be no change. Change will be a story that we are told in a vast distance. But I'm so happy that there are white people who are actually speaking about these things, like the ones who are in this video. I am glad that there are white people who acknowledge that they do benefit from white privilege. And until we have these serious conversations, and until we are angry about these conversations and actually sit people down and tell them, you know, this is actually happening, right? Stop acting like it doesn't just because it doesn't affect you. You should acknowledge that it happens, because at the end of the day, you think that it only affects black people, but it comes to bite you also. Because you cannot tell me that you carry that hate inside your heart for certain people and you're just okay. You cannot tell me that you're 100% a good person. That's a lie. There has to be something inside your heart. There has to be something inside your soul that you have to carry each and every day. And until you acknowledge that you do have things that other people do not have, and you're living in a system that hurts other people but, you know, favors you, then you can never make any true change. But before I give my full commentary, obviously I'm very, very passionate about this topic. Let's dive in, listen to what other people have to say, and then I'll come back and talk about it. See you shortly.
I'm going to give a hot take on something here. I'm going to say that the No Kings protest is the very definition of white privilege. Why do I say that? Because white people have the privilege to protest on a Saturday outside of working hours every 3 months. You get up, eat your Wheaties, make a sign, you feel good, you do something for an hour and a half, and then you go back, you post it on Facebook, and you go, cool, we'll do this again in January. That is privilege. If you're black, if you're Latino, if you're Mexican, if you're Muslim, if you're Asian, if you're anything other than white, every day, people across this country are getting looked at differently, or getting shit on, their due process, they're getting racially profiled. That's why we're still here. Because white people are still refusing to get off their damn couch and do it. If you want to actually protest, If you want to be an actual ally and really fight fascism, do that shit every day. Every day should be a new No Kings Day. Not every 3 months, not every 4 months, not every fucking month. Every goddamn day. You stop working. You don't pay your taxes. You protest. And you shut this shit down. Now, when you're ready to do that, you let me know. But I'm sick and tired of people thinking that No Kings is going to change anything, because it ain't. It makes white people feel good like they did the bare fucking minimum. 2025strike.com. You want to do something? You go sign that damn petition. You reverse Citizens United, you give women their rights back, you raise minimum wage, you put in gun reform, and you put term limits on people in the Senate and the Supreme Court. If you're not going to do those basic things, it doesn't matter if a Democrat or Republican run this damn country, because none of it benefits us. I am sick and tired of kids getting shot in goddamn schools, but people on the right bitching about a drag queen reading at a fucking high school. I'm sick and tired of it. So you have a choice, people. You could be on the right side of history or the white side of history. But if all you're willing to do is the bare minimum, then you're staying on the white side of history, because you're unwilling to be uncomfortable. The very definition of white privilege. What side are you going to be on?
Most white people don't see racism. I know that it seems unbelievable because the signs are there if you look for them, but we don't see racism because we're spoiled. That's right, I said it. Here's how I personally illustrate this as an analogy from my personal experience. I have had problems with my feet all my life. And if I am having foot pain, all I can think about is how much my feet hurt. But when I found a style of shoes that were right for me, I realized I hardly ever think about my feet anymore because they don't bother me now. If something is causing you pain, you think about it. You think about how to make it stop. Or you give up thinking about it ever stopping, and you think about how to endure it, how to live with it, how to fight it, how to minimize it. And that applies whether it's foot pain or racism. Most white people very rarely have to think about race unless we make a decision to think about it. And that's a choice for us. It's optional. It's not something we're forced to confront every day. As white parents, we tell our kids, if you get into trouble, find a police officer. They'll help you. Black parents would never do that. People of color give the talk about how to minimize the risk of getting killed by cops. If something doesn't hurt you, you don't learn to watch out for it. That is why white people don't get it when it comes to race. We walk through the world thinking our experience is the norm. So when black people describe being followed, being profiled, denied, or dismissed, it doesn't line up with what we have experienced. So we assume that black people are exaggerating, or too often we assume that it means that it's just not really happening. But the truth is, and I'm talking to white people here, racism isn't always blatant. It's not always a burning cross or a lynching. Sometimes it's a policy or a pattern that benefits us and makes us comfortable, so comfortable that we don't even notice. When it doesn't block your path, when it doesn't cause you any pain, you might not even notice that it exists. That's what white privilege is. Not just what you get, but what you never have to see.
Man, I tell you what, nothing makes racist white people more pissed off than me, a white person, trying to educate about racism and trying to educate about what white privilege is and all these things. And it's so funny because these same people will argue with me till they are blue in the face about how they're not racist and we don't live in a racist institution and black and brown people have it so easy and racism doesn't exist anymore. But then they will turn around and say the most racist, ignorant, vile shit you've ever heard in your life. The disconnect is amazing. And this is why I make content like this, because it's so important, because we do live in a racist institution and we are all raised in racism as white people. This is simply a fact. And the crazy part about it is every one of us knows this. Even the ones who will sit there and fight with me to the death about it and act like it doesn't exist. Y'all know white people are racist. Y'all know about the casual racism, the casual microaggressions that we are raised in, no matter where we live in this United States of America. And this is why I will never stop. I will never stop trying to educate as a white person about racism and how we need to learn. We need to evolve. We need to do better. It's almost as if they feel like admitting to a racist institution or admitting to racism makes them this evil, terrible person. And so they would rather double down than to grow and be a good person. And that's so bad, because all that says to me is that you have a small mind and a cowardly soul. And I wish better for you than that, truly, because everything in your life will get better when you stop being so ignorant.
Ever wonder why racism and white privilege really exist? It's not just about hate. It's about identity, or more accurately, the lack of it. See, one of the biggest problems with decolonization is, what do you do with the colonizers? It's a fair question, especially if, like me, you live in a country built on colonization. Because we, the descendants of settlers, are stuck in this strange identity crisis. We've lived here for centuries, but we've never actually belonged to the land we're on. We treat it like a trophy from some conquest that never really happened. We ravage, strip mine, harvest massive tracts of timber, and we pollute this land with barely a second thought. We do that exactly because we never really connected to it. We exploit it because it's only valuable to us as a commodity, for our personal gain. And then there's the purposeful erasure of tens of thousands of years of indigenous history and the harm we've caused the delicate balance of nature and its animals since colonization. It's further clear evidence of that fact. At the same time, colonizers don't have any connection to their ancestral lands either. For example, my ancestors hail from Ireland and Germany, and I know very little about either of those countries. I can't even imitate my genetically native Irish tongue or speak German. I have no connection to Europe. Not culturally, not spiritually, nothing. That thread was cut a long time ago. See, colonialism didn't just erase indigenous connection to the land, it also severed ours to anywhere else. So if we don't belong to the land we live on, and we don't belong to the lands we came from, who are we? That's why colonial identity so often shows up as either overt racism or indignant privilege. Because when your identity is paper thin, you lash out at anyone who challenges it. And I'm sure the comment section of this video will prove that point nicely. But deep down, colonial people want to belong. That's why we obsess over ancestry tests and family trees. We're trying to build a history that was erased to justify our own. Because identity, like culture, is built on history. But colonial countries are continually erasing their history to prop up the justification for colonization in the first place. We delete the history to maintain a fake identity. But no identity can grow because we keep deleting our history. So colonial identity never grows deeper than surface level, or what I like to call the sports and barbecue culture. Our real history is full of horror and hate, which we bury shallow and keep pretending it isn't there. And that open wound is left to fester and poison every generation that follows. But here's the hopeful part. It doesn't have to be that way. Decolonization and land back doesn't mean pack up and leave. They mean show up differently. They mean acknowledging that real history of this land, the pain we've caused, and building a system that values justice over dominance. Because if we do that, if we finally stop hiding from our past, maybe we'll all stop wondering who we are. and start building a future where everyone actually belongs. Anyway, something to think about.
I like to say this, but I'll say it again since we are here. White people need to understand that their enemy is not black people. Their enemy is not anyone from the minority groups. Their enemy is not even themselves, the people who exist right now. It's with their ancestors. The reason as to why you have to have people who are actually talking and actually turning their back against you as a white person, white people are turning their backs on certain white people. It's because there is so much pain that has been carried from your ancestors and has been, they have continuously made sure that they continue to carry it on generation after generation after generation. They are never letting you go. They are literally making you pay. You're still paying for the blood, sweat, and tears that black people had to suffer through to make America what it is right now. And you can deny and you can say, oh no, that never happened. Black people never helped to build anything in America. It's okay, you can say that. But you cannot ignore the fact that they exist. You cannot ignore the fact that they are part of America. And until you realize that, you cannot be a peaceful person. You can never be a peaceful person. And you need to understand that privilege isn't about guilt and accepting that you are privileged. It's not about you carrying the problems or the things that, the historical things that your ancestors did. It's not about that. But it's actually about, helping to dissolve this particular thing, because it means that you have recognized it and you're working towards ending it. As a human being, as a person who actually sees that human beings should not be treated in a certain way, especially if I'm benefiting from a system that is, directing a lot of pain and torture towards other people. It is about acknowledging these things and working towards it, joining arms with these people and saying, you know what, I'm going to take a step towards, a better tomorrow. Because the biggest thing in America and the biggest problem with white America is refusing to put themselves in the shoes of black people. You completely refuse to understand what black people go through because you don't even understand that reality. It's like a man trying to understand a woman, or, when they're pregnant. You cannot quite understand what women actually go through, the hormonal things and all that. But until you try and put yourself in those situations, it's when you can have empathy towards those people. Because you cannot tell me, if I ask you a question right now, if all the white cops were to be changed to be black cops and just a few white, police officers, then they only targeted white people. These black officers only targeted specifically white people. And anytime they did anything wrong, anything illegal, or anything outside of the law towards those white people, nothing ever happened to them. They still continue living their lives. They get transferred to another, state or any other place or in another station, and they continue living their lives and continue to torment other white people in those areas. Then what will you do when that happened? What will you do? Because most of the times, black people say that this happened, and then white people are like, so where is the evidence? You like saying this and that, why our cops are doing this to you guys, but you never have proof. Where's the proof? Like, is that the most important thing? Like, people got hurt. That's the first thing. How about you ask about that, And until white people learn how to be empathetic towards the black people and actually understand what they have been through and what they continue to carry even today in their day-to-day lives, there can never be any growth. But I'm so happy that there are white people who recognize this and actually try to work towards it. But you have to understand, even as a woke white person who is trying to break these generational curses and these generational burdens that you've been led to carry up to now in your lives, you need to understand that it cannot be easy for black people to trust you just as easily. The same as MAGA turning blue. Now we're having MAGA turning blue all of a sudden, It's very difficult to put trust into you guys, especially with your history and your realities. It's very, very difficult. And you have to understand that it can also take time to build trust with people whose history is mainly built over you hurting them. Okay? And having a victim mentality and believing everything you're told by Trump or any other white person that supports your opinion is you choosing to be ignorant. We are at the age of technology. You just need to Google. Most white people voted for Trump because they didn't want a black woman leading them. They didn't care about anything else. They just didn't want a black woman. They did not even go, do their own research about this black woman and compare that person to Trump. They didn't do that. They just chose because no matter who they choose, because this has been their history, this has been what has been happening, no matter who they choose, they still have a good life. Black people have had to make sure that the person that they are going to vote for, they have actually done their due diligence with that person, and they learned everything they need to do. They need to know, because once you choose someone who's not going to work for you in a system that completely does not work for you, you cannot survive in that country. You cannot survive in that country. That's why most people say that it was very essential for Trump to be president, because white people are actually waking up to the reality that just because someone is white doesn't mean they're on your side. Yeah. And a system can easily be changed to work against you. Now you know what black Americans have been through. Now you know what minorities live through. Now you understand. Now you live in it. You don't understand everything. This is just part of it. This is just part of it. Now you are suffering the things that black people have had to endure, and to make sure that they work for them so that they don't go homeless, they don't go hungry, they don't go in the streets begging for food and shelter and clothing. They have had to work in the hardships of a system that was made to make sure that they have the most difficult time in that country. So you understanding that a white president can actually turn his back on you and can actually do bad things to you, I think it was a very essential thing. And I do support the Americans who said that it was essential for, obviously it's not good, but it was very important for white American people to see what Trump is doing. Because if that never happened, then they will never have known, they will never have learned a lesson about choosing someone based on their history, based on their realities, not just choosing someone because you think they're going to choose you and hurt other people, favor you and hurt other people. It was very, very essential. And this white privilege thing, once we bring these stories of white privilege and racism and white supremacy, you see white people, throwing but you have so many crimes. You have done so many things in this country. Why should the system be changed to benefit you when you are constantly doing certain things that are illegal or are a danger to the rest of the society? And you like to cherry pick these particular black crimes so that you allow yourselves to be victims and overlook your outrageous and overwhelming behaviors. Because we don't even need to go that far, but we can just look over this year's only. This year only, how many school shootings there have been, how many white people have just gone outrageous and killed their own and killed other people for no reason. White on white crime is literally leading. White on white crime is the leading danger in America. You guys are doing it to yourselves, but you like to cherry pick it because you don't want to speak about, the important things. You want to say that black people are posing a danger to... Yes, even in Africa. Africa is full of black people. They do things to each other that is also done everywhere around the world. People do certain things that are not good or are not legal. It happens. But in a country where it's a colorful country, where there's so many different cultures and so many different people, they are black, brown, Asian, white. You cannot cherry pick a certain people and say you don't want them to get, good education, good medical stuff, and just benefit from the government actually working for them, just because some of them commit crimes. You cannot say that, because even you guys, you commit crimes. I think the biggest thing and the biggest reason as to why white people do not want to accept that they do benefit from certain things in America is because they do not want to give away their power. They know they have this power. They know they have a certain power. They know that this system is actually working towards, helping me and not helping these people. And they're so afraid because they don't know what equality will mean. They don't understand. They can't even imagine what equality means for America, what equality means for their tomorrow. Will they have to also look over their shoulder like black people do? Will they have to literally be in a system that works against them? Will they have to be in a system that makes them actually think about who they are voting for and actually do their own research instead of just voting for anyone and, relaxing, because at the end of the day, he's going to help you. He's going to be good to you because the system says so. I think that is the biggest thing. You're afraid of what that entails. You cannot imagine being in the same reality and having the same system work for you and for black people, because you have seen what black people can do without that system working for them. So you're like, okay, then what will they do when that system works for them? And until you realize that black people do not even care about those certain things, they just want to be treated as people. That's just it. They do not want to look over their shoulders. They want to be in a country where they are appreciated and they are loved. A place that they can call home and actually be proud of it, because that country does not pose a danger to them. That is what literally all black people want. They don't want all these things that you're so scared about. They don't want to attack you or come for you or, repay what you've done. No. They just want to continue their lives peacefully and, just have a good life. And until you understand that, then you can never make true change, because these are things that have been put inside your head. You have been fed so many lies by your parents and the parents of your parents, and history that you've been taught in school, that you don't even understand the realities, the differences that come from class to outside world. You don't even understand the difference, because in class you're taught white people are superior. You come out to the world, you find that black people are billionaires. Black people are more, the most educated, one of the most educated people in the world. Come to realize that black people can actually be paid more than you. They can actually be more educated than you. They can actually discover things that help you in your day-to-day lives. I think that is where there is such a big problem. But white privilege, you cannot deny that it exists. It does. And the only way to cure it is for you to acknowledge that fact and work towards it. Okay? I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I hope you have learned something from this video. If you have, kindly consider sharing, subscribing, and liking. I'd also like to read your comments down in the comment section below and interact with you guys. And if you'd like to support me in another way, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. I will truly, truly appreciate it. And I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.